Hello and welcome to a new mini-series on the channel where I'm setting out to rank all 25 of the movies released by Pixar Animation Studios. In the interest of avoiding a ridiculously long video, I thought I'd break this ranking down into parts, and since there are 25 movies, it felt natural to separate the list into sections of 5. This is the first video where I'll be ranking my choices for places 21 through 25. Let's get into it. Before we start, I have to give my usual disclaimer that this list is my own biased ranking based purely on my taste and personal enjoyment. It is absolutely not a worst to best list, so while I'm sure many of you won't agree with my picks, outrage is not necessary. I'm not claiming that any of these movies are better than the others, I'm just sharing my least to most favorite. Also, this video will contain spoilers just in case you haven't seen all the movies yet. So with all that in mind, sit back, relax, and enjoy the first 5 entries of my Pixar ranking.
Number 25, The Good Dinosaur.
More like the bad dinosaur, am I right? Anyways, I just wish Disney would stop trying to do dinosaurs because in my opinion, it's never worked. I have complaints about most things in The Good Dinosaur, aside from the music. I think the music is perfectly fine. The score has some pretty moments. As for everything else, let's start with the plot. I get hints of the Lion King from Arlo's dad dying in front of him in the ravine and his subsequential guilt. And I also get a bit of Finding Nemo due to the protagonist and an unlikely companion encountering different characters as they go on a long journey. Of course, The Good Dinosaur is no Lion King or Finding Nemo. I just don't like this plot. It doesn't feel engaging. I've seen this movie at least 3 times, but the only time I was able to will myself to pay attention the whole time was when I first saw it in theaters. The idea of aimlessly scrolling Twitter gets very appealing when this movie is on. When I saw the trailer for this movie, it seemed interesting because they framed it as what if the asteroid that took out the dinosaurs never hit Earth, but then they never really did anything with that concept. Arlo and Spot obviously spend a lot of time together, but I thought the coexisting of dinosaurs and humans would be more of a factor. Instead, we just got dinosaurs learning to farm. In terms of characters, I don't like any of them. Before I saw this movie, I thought Spot was going to be the one to annoy me the most, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Arlo is offender number 1. I swear to God, half of his dialogue in the movie is just yelling.
For the love of God, shut the fuck up.
The background animation in The Good Dinosaur is admittedly very impressive. The problem is, it's so hyper-realistic that it clashes hard with the more cartoony look of the characters. I'm certainly not the first person to complain about this, but it is a factor. It just looks weird. As stunning as the backgrounds are, I don't really get the point of animation looking so realistic, because at that point, why not just film live-action backgrounds and CGI the characters in? Oh shit, wait. Never mind. In all seriousness though, I love when animation is unique and stylized. It was a lot more common obviously with traditional animation, but it's definitely still possible. The Good Dinosaur has some nice thematic moments like when Arlo and Spot connect over losing their family members, but it doesn't cut it in the big picture. I don't really like the idea that you have to earn your place or make your mark in order to be deemed worthy within your own family. Arlo's journey of maturing and learning to step up isn't bad, I just would have liked it to be executed differently. At the end of the day, The Good Dinosaur bores and annoys me, and for those reasons, it's ranking last.
Number 24, Brave.
I would like to have this movie higher, but after some consideration, this is my honest placement. Brave was the first fairy tale-esque Pixar movie and included magical elements that, to me, don't really suit the studio. The story also feels a bit random with the bears and whatnot. At its core, the story is about the relationship between Merida and her mother, Queen Eleanor. They don't get along, and the movie centers on Eleanor urging Merida to consent to become betrothed for the sake of the kingdom. This spurs Merida to seek out the witch and obtain a spell to change her fate. I'm so sorry. And that's how Eleanor becomes a bear. In order to fix this, Merida and Eleanor must mend the bond torn by pride. My problem is that I don't think Merida has anything to atone for. I mean, it was irresponsible to use a spell on her mom, but she didn't know what would happen and she was desperate. Eleanor comes to empathize with her daughter and changes her mind in the end, but I don't know what we're supposed to think of Merida. It reminds me a bit of The Little Mermaid, where Ariel and Triton are at odds, so Ariel does something drastic that leads to a big problem, but ultimately Triton sees that she was right and changes his ways. But with The Little Mermaid, it's not a problem for me because the movie never framed it like Ariel did anything wrong. With Brave, they make it seem like Merida and Eleanor are both equally in the wrong. That might just be the way I see it, but it is something I take issue with. The medieval Scotland setting in Brave is marvelous. There's some very beautiful design work and animation on display. Patrick Doyle's score fits in perfectly as it incorporates Scottish elements and has a gorgeous atmospheric sound. The character designs are not my favorite, but I do love Merida's strikingly red hair. It contrasts so well with her green dress. Overall, I'm not mad about Brave, but it doesn't fit in too well with other Pixar movies due to its weak plot, mystical elements, and general DreamWorks feel. I like that Pixar finally had a female protagonist, I just wish she had a better movie. There are good qualities about Brave, but I'm never too eager to watch it.
Number 23, Cars 2.
Surprise! This isn't last, but it didn't make it much higher. I get why they made Cars 2. They sell a lot of toys and merchandise. And it's not even that I think this movie shouldn't exist, it's more that I think it should have been a direct-to-DVD Disney Toon thing rather than an actual Pixar movie. I don't think Cars 2 is horrendous, but it's pretty silly and goofy. The main spy plot feels juvenile and muddled, and I think it was a mistake to center the movie on Mater. He works as a sidekick to Lightning where we can take him in smaller doses, but having him be front and center for a whole movie is a bit much. It's sort of strange that the underlying theme of the movie is about environmentalism, but I don't mind it. It just seems a little out of place. The new characters are largely forgettable. I like the designs for Finn McMissile and Holly Shiftwell, but I don't really care about their personalities. And I know it's for humor's sake, but I don't buy Holly being into Mater at the end of the movie. Because the movie follows a plot involving a World Grand Prix, we get to visit some fun settings throughout the movie, which is a bright spot. My favorite has to be Tokyo. And I definitely don't mind getting to return to Radiator Springs. The animation and the music are both serviceable, nothing really sticks out as being particularly notable. Michael Giacchino probably had fun making a spy-themed score, but it's not even close to his best work. I don't have the seething hate for this movie that many people do, but I can understand why it's not beloved. Even though I think Cars movies in general aren't just for kids, this one is certainly more geared towards them, and I guess that's fine.
Number 22, Toy Story 4.
I'm part of the camp that wishes Toy Story was left as a trilogy. It's been said that Toy Story 3 capped off Andy's story, but Toy Story 4's purpose is to cap off Woody's story. This makes sense, but I still don't like much about the film. On an aesthetic level, I dislike spending the bulk of the movie in the dingy antique shop setting. Toy Story makes me think of bright, fun, and colorful sets for the most part, and this doesn't match up. The animation quality is impressive, but I'm not a fan of where we are. There are tons of new characters in Toy Story 4, and I either don't like or don't have an opinion on most of them. Gabby Gabby plays the role of villain for the majority of the time, but ends up changing her tune towards the end. I have issues with her narrative. She tries to have Woody's voice box forcibly removed, but after guilting him with her sob story, he gives it up willingly. Then Harmony rejects her anyways. Woody extends further kindness towards Gabby by offering to let her return home to Bonnie with them, but she ends up finding a lost girl who takes interest in her. Gabby had a difficult life of feeling unwanted, but I don't enjoy the way she acts like a tyrant and then just gets a happy ending. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. Forky is both kind of amusing and kind of annoying. And as a Canadian myself, Duke Kaboom is pretty stereotypical, but it is nice to be represented, I suppose. He brings some humor into the mix, which is nice. Ducky and Bunny aren't too remarkable, but they're also humorous and their designs are cute. Randy Newman's score is good, of course, but it's not a standout compared to his other Toy Story work. My main issue with Toy Story 4 is that it feels forced. The other sequels felt like organic continuations of the toys' journeys, but this one feels like certain things had to be really warped and pulled out of thin air in order to work. The big offender is Bo Peep's characterization. I guess it's fair to say she would change a lot since being given away, but to me, she's completely unrecognizable from the character we previously knew. I know her and Woody had a special connection, but it was always a periphery thing, and suddenly it's the thing that matters most to him. Andy was always Woody's #1 priority, so with him out of the picture, it's not unbelievable that Woody would start to feel differently, but it doesn't ring true for me. Outside of some silly antics with Buzz, the rest of the toys get totally sidelined in this movie, and I know it's because the focus is on Woody's journey, but I don't like it. They're so essential to what makes the Toy Story movies so great. But this is what it really comes down to. This is not a Toy Story movie, it's a Woody movie, and there isn't anything inherently wrong with that, I just personally don't enjoy it. This may be selfish, but I much preferred being left with the image of Woody and the rest of Andy's toys living out their new chapter together with Bonnie. Toy Story 4 is meant to deliver Woody the happiness he deserves after putting his kids first for his entire life, and as nice as that is, the idea of him not being with Buzz, Jessie, and the gang depresses me. The ending of Toy Story 3 was sad, but also fulfilling. It felt right. This ending just makes me feel a bit empty. And Woody's farewell with the rest of the toys was so rushed and just suddenly happened at the end, it didn't even give us time to process it. I just think that after spending 3 previous movies with this cast of characters, they deserved a lot more consideration.
Number 21. Onward.
This movie was the last one I saw in theaters before everything shut down for COVID. It was the start of the most recent string of original works for Pixar, and while I always like originality, this isn't exactly my taste. Onward falls a little bit into a similar region as Brave with the magical elements, and I don't know how to describe it, but it just doesn't feel very Pixar to me. The unnatural fit combined with the fantasy genre not being my favorite both contribute to me not loving Onward. The plot is a little bizarre and chaotic, which is good and bad because it's entertaining but can also feel random and aimless. The Manticore is funny but weird, and I don't like the scenes with the Pixies. I also don't like Bronco much either. I do like the mom though. Ian is a likable lead, but he's also very plain. I don't feel like Pixar did anything new by making this character. Barley is a bit more interesting, but he can also be obnoxious. I'm not a big fan of the casting choices of Tom Holland and Chris Pratt for this movie. They do perform their characters well, but they just feel like such obvious and mainstream choices. Ian and Barley's relationship dynamic is one of the things that does work pretty well in the movie, which is good since it's the main focus. Through the joint goal of seeing their dad, they spend a lot of time together and they do a lot of learning, clashing, and bonding. The main reason this movie isn't lower on my list is its emotional climax. When Ian realizes how much of a fatherly impact Barley has had on his life, it's very touching. And then it's even more touching when Ian selflessly gives up the chance to meet his dad in order to let Barley have that special moment with him. It honestly does bring a tear to my eye, and it makes this movie worthwhile overall. The music in Onward is nice. It suits the movie, and I like the main theme in the score. And as for the animation, it's stellar, as is the usual for Pixar. The world is a modern fantasy hybrid, and there's a lot of creativity on display. I'm not in love with the style, especially of the main characters, but it's decent. On the whole, Onward is far from my favorite, and it's not a movie I see myself revisiting often, but it's not bad. The newer Pixar movies just aren't going to have that same special feel as the older ones, and after accepting that, I'm actually able to enjoy them more. And that concludes the first installment of my Pixar ranking. Thanks for watching, and feel free to share your least favorite Pixar movies in the comments down below. I have a feeling I'll be seeing a lot of a certain movie. If you liked this video, hit like and subscribe, and head over to the Trove to check out more rankings, trivia, and video essays. I'll have links to playlists in the description down below. Thanks again for hanging out, and expect the next video in my Pixar rankings soon. See you next time.